So how do you feel about boundaries? It's a legitimate question. A lot of people come to me really struggling with this concept. They often feel guilty for setting boundaries, or they're not sure about even what a boundary is. They've heard the term, set the boundary, things like that, but that's really confusing for them because it's not something that's well taught in our society nowadays, right? They know that boundaries are really important to having healthy, constructive, supportive, and wonderful relationships, but why? And oftentimes they also know that they feel like their boundaries are being violated, but they can't quite pinpoint what the boundary is that's being violated. That's why I've created the Clarifying and Creating Your Boundaries free PDF. You can find out what your boundaries are, how to tune in to what the boundary needs to be, and how to effectively create and communicate your boundary so that way you stay in this place that respects you, respects the other person, but also gives you the confidence in your boundaries so that way you stop being gaslighted, disrespected, and unseen. Having your boundaries really clear gives you a voice and also helps the other person stay in accountability with themselves. So that's not a role that you have to take on anymore. So if you are ready to really have clear boundaries, to really understand what your role is in the boundary, and to give yourself some safety and some protection against people that might try to gaslight you or are just being disrespectful, go grab my Creating and Clarifying Your Boundary PDF at erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. And while you're there, let's schedule a call with me. Come have a chat with me so that way I can really help you master this particular skill, creating boundaries, clarifying the boundary, communicating that boundary, and so that way I can also help you have relationships that show up to support you, cherish you, and love you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Other Side of the Struggle. Okay, so here's a question that I get a lot, and that is, how do I build safety? I don't feel safe either in my business, in my relationships. Maybe you don't even feel safe in your own skin or in your own home. Wherever it is, there might be some level of feeling unsafe. And when that happens, your nervous system is shutting down, right? Because our nervous system and our amygdalas want to keep us in some measure of safety. And this is why they put us in the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, right? Whenever we feel like there's a measure of unsafety somewhere around us, we tend to shut down. That doesn't mean that you're wrong. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, etc. That actually means that your body and your mind are responding to the stimuli that you're giving it, right? Whether that's realized or not, or whatever it is, safety is a really big deal, especially if you're wanting to move forward with a better marriage, whether you're wanting to move forward with a better relationship in general, or a business, or creating money, or whatever it is. Safety has to be there, okay? And it's different for men and women too. Women especially need the safe feeling. And the reason being is, throughout all of history, starting from Adam and Eve, women have been primarily preyed upon. Just simply because we don't have the physical strength that men have, right? Men, on the other hand, they go out and can create and do and hustle, etc., and that works for them. But for women, that type of energy actually pushes us deeper into the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. Okay? and I could get into the whole of like why that is, but what I want to do today instead is talk about like what safety for women looks like. If you don't have someone like a masculine, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not here to like pick on guys. Like I am so grateful for the men in my life. I have many, many, many that surround me. I have a wonderful husband, wonderful sons, a wonderful father-in-law, and wonderful men that surround me in my business too. I work and collaborate with several. But the truth of the matter is a lot of women, if not most women, feel unsafe in some way. They feel like they don't have someone looking out for her. And that actually is something that women need, is someone to actually look out for her, because when somebody's looking out for her, she therefore can turn around and create dreams, create those dreams into realities. She's safe to do so because someone's looking out for her, right? Somebody's got her back. And let's be honest with ourselves. If we're feeling betrayed in some way, it's because we feel like our back has not, like somebody hasn't had our back the whole time. We thought they did, but they don't. And that's a really hard reality to come to grips with. But the problem is a lot of women don't know how to create that safety without someone having their own back. And this is why I want to talk today about the very first boundary that I ever teach women to have. And that is becoming your own best friend. Now, in order for me to teach the becoming your own best friend boundary, let me also talk about boundaries and how they work. Okay, now this is a big discussion. If you guys want to get into more detail, I highly, highly recommend going over to my other podcast for entrepreneurs, and that is Bold Hearts, Big Moves. Okay, in that podcast, it's all about like earning money, and it's all about creating a safe nervous system so we can create. And so I'm kind of getting into that a little bit with you guys today. But the very first few episodes in Bold Hearts, Big Moves is all about the 7 different types of boundaries. I go into depth with those different types of boundaries. So definitely go check that podcast out if you guys would like to learn more about boundaries. And I'm going to be talking more about them here too, but definitely if you want to get into the 7 different types, it's on that podcast. So go check it out. Go listen to those episodes, okay? All right. But let me also say that boundaries, like what is a boundary? A boundary is not what happens between you and another person. That's actually the result of a boundary and how a boundary is or is not working for you. Okay? If you feel like you have to shrink or people please, that's a very good indication that your boundaries are leaky, that they're not working for you. But if you feel like you can keep your energy intact, you can keep your values intact, you can keep your mindset intact no matter what is going on around you, that is the indication that your boundaries are becoming unbreakable, right? And so, like, for me, the very first boundary, oh, let me back up. I'm sorry. Let me explain exactly what a boundary is and how to make an unbreakable boundary. And boundary actually is how you choose to view yourself and act accordingly. Okay? So let me say that again. A boundary is how you choose to view yourself and act accordingly to that. So, for an example, this is why when we say, becoming your own best friend or be your own best friend is that very first boundary. The only way that you can actually build an empire of boundaries or a castle of boundaries is by making sure you have one heck of a good foundation. And if boundaries are all about who you choose to be and how you choose to live inside of your values in a way that makes you feel proud of yourself, love yourself, and in awe of yourself, the way that builds your confidence no matter what, then you got to have the foundation of becoming your own best friend first, because you're going to make decisions and that literally have your back. Okay? Because safety is all about consistency. And the truth of the matter, the really hard, rough truth in this whole thing is consistency is created by you. You get to trust or mistrust what somebody else is consistent with, right? If somebody's constantly showing up for you, constantly having your back, constantly you know that they are looking out for you, that's somebody we tend to trust because that's what's constant. But if somebody's constantly tearing you down, constantly expecting you to change you and your reality about you, change like basically what God created you to be. Okay? And I'm saying that because I also don't want to be misunderstood in any way about boundaries. Boundaries are not just your viewpoint. It is also coming closer to what God created you to be and who God created you to be, realizing He didn't make any mistakes. That's what I'm talking about, becoming that person, right? And unapologetically so. And if somebody is expecting you to change that just to please them constantly, and they're always giving you different like rules and regulations, you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this, and they're always changing, well, that's what's constant with that person. And so we tend to not trust that constant, right? So becoming your own best friend teaches you to be constant with yourself. And this is why that's so important and why it starts to create safety, is because you are the thing that you can predict. And that should always be the case because we have to live inside of our heads. We have to live inside of our bodies. No matter what happens, we can never abandon ourselves. Even if, say, somebody does get us to people please, or somebody does cause us to shrink, or somebody does, in a quote unquote sense, get us to abandon ourselves for them because we're trying to create safety in the moment and stop the quote unquote boat rocking. The problem is you still have to come back to yourself. You still have to live in your own skin. You still have to live in your own mind. Your spirit will never depart from you. You are still going to be you. You are the one person you can't abandon, at least not permanently. And for that reason, the first person we need to create consistency with is ourselves. And that consistency created in ourselves starts to create safety. So let's talk about what becoming our own best friend looks like. Okay? Because I hear a lot of women and men and women both. It's not just women I hear this from, but there's a lot of self-judgment happening. And this is also a lot of the reason why we don't listen to our emotions, right? Is because we fear that they're going to leave us in self-judgment. So we don't trust our own emotions because they tend to hurt us more. The problem with shutting off emotions, though, is it shuts off our ability to relate to the world and to relate to other people and to build connections. And that actually does tend to cause us to start to abandon ourselves completely. Eventually, we still have to come back to ourselves. We still are going to have to make some sort of a restitution or judgment or etc., right? Eventually. And so this is why we want to really start learning how to listen to our emotions. Becoming your own best friend starts first and foremost with the listening boundary, listening to yourself. And not listening to yourself in a judgmental way, in a way that we're going to beat ourselves up and to call ourselves out and to tell us that we are bad or not good enough or somehow flawed. That's not the reason we listen. We listen to understand. See, how would it feel if you always had someone that listened to you just to understand you, not to judge you, but to really get you? The cool thing about that is you get to create that inside of yourself first. You get to give yourself that gift first. And we do that the same way we would if we were actually listening to our best friend. I want you to think about somebody that you truly do love and that loves you back, and somebody that you would listen to no matter what, with compassion.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you a faithful listener to the other side of the struggle? Have you loved the other side of the struggle for as long as you've been listening to it? Have you been waiting and begging for more episodes to come out? Well, good news. Come 2026, the very first part, the other side of the struggle is coming back better than ever, better than it's ever been, just for you listeners. So now you can heal your trauma in ways that you've never realized were possible before. So tune in, 2026, we're coming back. Maybe they made a big mistake and they're coming to you and they're telling you all about the mistake they made. Okay, I get it. I've been there. I've done mistakes too. We're good at making mistakes, right? You'd be asking though. You wouldn't be sitting there like adding on to their pressure. You'd be asking, how can I help? What do you need from me? How can I love you better? How can I support you in this moment? What if we took those questions and turned them onto ourselves? When we feel like we are in a situation where maybe we're not performing as good as what we think we can or know we can even, what if we said, okay, what do you need? How can I love you better? What's really going on? Talk to me. I'm not going to judge you. What if that was the attitude that we approached our faults with? Where would we get? See, this is something that I teach my clients to do, is to start following those questions, to start following that predictability, because if we do and we truly listen to ourselves and we speak to ourselves this way, see, we're using the listening and the talking boundary in this way, then what tends to happen is we tend to find more boundaries. Boundaries that become completely and utterly unbreakable. You know, I did this with one of my clients last year who, you know, she really had a rough time with her late spouse and with her family in general. And she had one particular person in her life that constantly was trying to get her to pay. She's well to do. She's very well off, and she was constantly trying to get her to pay for all the things that she wanted. And my client, even though she could have paid for them, also realized that this person in her life could pay for these things too. That she did not need to expend her effort and her time and her resources to make sure this person was happy. And in truth, like if we really peel that back, this person couldn't have been happy anyway with my client constantly just giving her everything. That's not what creates happiness. That's not what creates value. Value is created from the effort we ourselves put into what we say we want or what we say we want to be. That's how we value ourselves, is by the effort we put in. That's how we value the things we have, is by the effort we put in. So if she's just having everything handed to her, well, she's not going to learn to value anything. You know, this was a discussion that my client and I had. And as she started listening to her emotions and what her emotions were actually trying to tell her, one of the biggest messages that came out was, I don't need to be manipulated. I'm not here to people please her. I wasn't put on this planet to please her. I was put on this planet to please God and myself through him. And this is not the way to do it. I give what is right. And that is what she came to understand, is I am someone who gives the right gift. Oh, and when she sat in that, you could literally just see her like fill up. Like her energy just started to vibrate. And you literally could see this. And so, you know, it took away the guilt of saying no, because she didn't want to give the wrong gift. That's not who she was. She's someone who gave the right gift. And when the timing was right, she gave that gift. And she also gave the gift of no. That was the right gift to give. And she could see it. And it created so much clarity for her moving forward in her business. She gave her team members the right gift. Sometimes it was a no. Sometimes it was a yes. Sometimes it was, let's sit down and actually talk about your performance. Sometimes it was, your performance is so good, let's elevate you. She knew it because she gave the right gifts. See, this works well with me too, because one of the things that I've learned from this boundary of I'm going to be my own best friend is I really get to see myself and my strengths. Yes, my weaknesses too. I'm currently working on the boundary of I do what I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, okay? Working on that boundary. I'm making that one become unbreakable. I'm really, becoming a person of my word. Because honesty is a big deal to me, right? Honesty is one of my values. Respect is one of my values, right? And so whenever I speak to someone, I still try to do it in the most respectful, most honest, most loving way. Sometimes that looks pretty sharp. Recently I had somebody that, without going into a lot of detail, did something to one of my kids that was completely and utterly not okay. This person put fear into my child in a way that was inappropriate. She claimed that she was having visions, and she had a vision of one of my other sons like hurting this son, and explained in detail to my child exactly what was going to happen. And she's right because she has visions. And it scared my son. It scared both of my sons, actually, very badly. And as I got thinking about it, as a mother to my sons who I love, I adore, they're great kids, really, really good kids, and they wouldn't ever hurt a fly for crying out loud. Well, maybe a fly, okay? But they're very, very kind and gentle beings. And for me to see them hurt like that by someone who had no business speaking to them that way meant that I had to take some action, right? But I had to look down inside myself before I said anything and ask myself, okay, what is honest? What is respectful? What is loving? And what is true, right? And I crafted my message with that, and it was pretty sharp. It held some pretty strong rebukes in there, and it's not out of anger, but it's because I was very, very clear on how inappropriate her message was to my kids. And guess what? It caused her to distance herself from me, and that's okay. Because when we're very, very clear on who we are and we act accordingly to that, what tends to happen is we either attract people with a like mindset or we push away people who would do us harm. Whether intentionally or not, we tend to push those people away because we're going to be constant with us. So this is how we start to create safety, as we start to find who we truly are, act in accordance and with likeness to that. And people tend to start coming into us that have the similar values, a similar mindset, because we're already having that inside of us. We have that constant. We can see that. We can start to see that in other people as well. And we can recognize who is a safe person in our spaces. For me, this person was not safe. Me acting in alignment with my values put things back into safety for me and push this person out. At least for now. And that's okay. Because here's the truth of the matter. When somebody is not honoring themselves, they tend to allow other people to tell them how to behave, how they should show up, how they should think, how they should feel, etc. And when that's what you see inside of yourself, you recognize other people and their constant back and forth. And this is why we attract people who are inconsistent in their speech, their mentality, and people who are unsafe is because we are not being constant inside of ourselves first. So becoming your own best friend, how would you treat yourself like you would a best friend? You spend time with yourself. Maybe you treat yourself to a lunch date. The speech that comes from your mouth to you would have to change. And even me, I have to recognize sometimes, oh, that's not best friend energy, right? I'm going to shift that. I'm going to apologize to myself quickly, forgive myself quickly, and move on, right? Because that's what best friends do. They hold each other accountable but they also see the very best in each other. And that's why they hold each other accountable, is because they see the best in each other. When one has maybe overstepped, they call each other out, but then they forgive each other quickly. They don't hold the other person in contempt because we see the best in that person. And remember, this is the person that you can't ever abandon. This is the one person that you have to live with through eternity. So you may as well make yourself a really great best friend partnership inside of yourself. Listen to yourself. Listen to your emotions. Remember, they are the gateway between your subconscious and your conscious. So if something's down there in the subconscious that needs to be conscious, you're going to feel something. And when you listen to that emotion, it only takes 90 seconds for it to burn out of your body. When you listen to the thoughts that are behind that emotion, you can then ask yourself, okay, what really is true? Does this align with God's vision of me? Would this align with a best friend version of me? And if it isn't, that's something we need to change. All right, my loves. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Also, down below, if you guys would like to schedule a call with me to maybe work through some of your trauma, get help with your boundaries, or if you even want some help setting up a business so that way you can start creating some income for yourself, feel free to give me a call. The scheduling link is down below in the description. These calls are free, by the way. Okay. The first one is complimentary, and we'll get you set up and on your way, hopefully with whatever it is you need. Okay. So feel free to come schedule a call with me, and these calls are non-salesy. And if there is something that I feel like you and I could do, or if we could work together in some way to help you further your goals, then, we'll schedule another call on top of that, and we can talk about the things that I do offer my clients. But in the meantime, feel free to get that call, or you can also ask your questions in the question sections in the other side of the struggle. We do answer questions on this show. So if you have them, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. It's all anonymous. So anyway, schedule a call with me, ask me some questions, and until next time, I'll see you on the other side. Bye, guys. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening in on this podcasting episode. Don't forget to tune in next week. It's gonna